With 2 out of 3 preseason games in the books, it's time to start taking a look at some of these training camp battles that have been taking place over the past few weeks at One Jets Drive and kind of see who we think stands where, whose roster spot is safe, whose isn't, who might start, who might be the backups. That and a little bit more here with our friend Antwan Staley from the New York Daily News. Antwan, how are we doing today?
I'm all right. How you doing?
Doing well, thanks. Doing well. Like we said, couple games in, one preseason game left, and actually that'll be one quick question. We'll kick it off with that. Has Aaron Glenn said any thoughts? Will the starters go this week, or I would imagine they would, but I don't know that they'll play more than a couple series again.
We haven't spoken to him since the game after the game on Saturday. So
Okay.
we'll find out. We'll find out on Tuesday. My guess is yes, but he may or may not say anything. He didn't necessarily say anything last week either. But I assume the plan is kind of the same, to have the starters play a little bit. But I guess we'll
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah, his mantra has kind of been let players play, so I would expect they will, but I think it'll be very limited again. But just thought I'd throw that one out there while we're here because with some of the names we're going to throw out. Um, Appreciate you giving us your time. I know you're pressed today, so we'll try to blow right through these. We'll start with the biggest name in terms of the guys battling, somewhat of a surprise battle that I think a lot of people didn't take seriously at first. The Josh Myers, Joe Tipman. I think when that signing happened and a lot of that talk started, people were saying, "Oh, it's just they're blowing smoke. It's not going to be a competition." I mean, Myers been running with the ones pretty consistently, even up until last week when Tipman started at guard when Simpson was out, but when Simpson came back, Myers ran with the ones again the next day. I think that universally among Jets fans, they're kind of almost confused. Like Tipman is the far better player. Why is this happening? Other than the history with Justin Fields, where do you think this stands? Do you think there's still a chance that Myers wins this job, or do you think in the end Joe Tipman is the center?
I mean, they've been going back and forth throughout training camp, so I think it's still Joe Tippmann's job to lose. I think he did a solid job a year ago. Just look at what he was able to do on a team that obviously struggled last year. But I thought the offensive line was solid, and you come back this year. I think he's the better option. You look at Josh Myers there. You look at the Green Bay game. Wasn't necessarily, the greatest there, even on the Justin Fields touchdown run too, as well. So, yeah, I think Tippmann is the guy at least moving forward. But we'll see how it all plays out. I know Tippmann started on Saturday against the Giants, so it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do against the Eagles on Friday night.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think that battle, just having it has been surprising. I think if Tippman were to lose that to Myers, I think that would be attributed again to that the relationship, the comfort level Fields has with him versus the. And I listen, I know people said, "Oh, Joe Tippman has some, the occasional high snap," and to me, that's not enough to bench the superior player because you're going to have a couple of high snaps. It's not. We're not talking about Spencer Long here, where he's launching them over the quarterback's head on a regular basis.
I think just having Myers is a good, backup plan just in case, injuries would occur. I mean, we said it, not necessarily last year, although it was some injuries with Morgan Moses and obviously
Right.
Tyron Smith, but just in previous years in the past where the Jets are just getting depleted by injuries on the offensive line. So you just want to make sure you have an insurance plan just in case that were to happen once again.
And staying with the offensive line, because of course that is the main battle. But of course, if you look beyond the starters, everyone feels great about what they've got to tackle in terms of Olu and Membu. But beyond that, you've got a Okorafor who's sort of the experienced veteran who a lot of people feel will be the swing. And that remains to be seen. But beyond that, even to me, it gets pretty ugly pretty quick. Max Mitchell, Carter Warren. If you're going to have a third, fourth tackle, these guys are. And listen, I understand. People say, "What do you expect?" It's the fourth guy, the fifth guy. Like, right, but there's still levels to that. You can still have a more quality player than what the Jets have there right now. What are your thoughts there with does Okorafor stick as the third tackle? And what do you think they would do in terms of the fourth guy?
Yeah, I would imagine he would be the third guy if need be right now. I think the fourth guy, I think it would probably be Max Mitchell, just simply because his flexibility. Obviously, I don't think you want him playing on the left side, but obviously he can. But, he has had experience on both sides too as well. I know Carter Warren the same thing, but, I think just his experience in the league just kind of gives Max Mitchell a little bit of a leg up there. But either way, like if it goes to that point, then yeah, you're in huge trouble. Probably if you lose either Membu or Fashion New for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things you might survive it for a couple games, but if it's long term, you're going to have some trouble there.
Yeah.
Staying on the offensive side, and really, you can't even just throw out one or two names because let's throw out the entire list of receivers. Who in your mind has the inside leg at wide receiver two? And do you think Arian Smith is in the mix just yet? Personally, I think maybe that's down the road, but I think it'll be sort of a Josh Reynolds now with Arian Smith having a chance to win that job later. There's been a lot of talk lately among fans saying Smith's played well enough, give him the job. I don't see them going that route. What do you think at that spot?
I don't think he's played well enough, like to warrant, like especially as a rookie. I mean, he's a day three pick, like in the draft. I mean, you're not going to start a day three pick. Oh, excuse me. I mean, just like the wide receiver position at your second spot, like on game one. Now, I think he'll get playing time and be possibly productive. I mean, he did have a drop there on Saturday. Some people said he had another drop too, just depending on how you feel about it. But yeah, I mean, he's had drop issues, obviously dating back to Georgia. So again, like to put him in that spot, I think is kind of tough right away. So I would say Josh Reynolds is the guy right now. I think that was pretty much a consensus right now. Tyler Johnson's another guy they really like too as well. We'll see what happens with Alan Lazard. I mean, he still has the shoulder injury, so I don't know what the plan might be there. I don't know how long he might be out or anything like that. Depending on how that it ends, and that might affect Malachi Corley or maybe somebody else, who's a free agent once, cut downs happen, which a week from now. So there's definitely a lot of decisions to be made there. I like Brandon Smith. I definitely think he's a guy that's kind of stood out there, Skinner too as well. But I don't know how many young guys, like, although they are in the youth movement, I don't know how many young, inexperienced receivers you want to have. But I guess if the way they're thinking might be is just, throw them out there, see if these guys can produce. If they can, then, maybe they, fit into the long-term plans. If not, then, maybe you find somebody else that can possibly do the job there.
Yeah, Corley's probably one of the bigger names out there who I don't know how he makes the team at this point, unless, as you said, Lazard on IR is a possibility. And if Corley blows up in this final preseason game, I mean he's literally he's what one catch for eight, I think, is all he's got through two games. He's not only is he not putting up numbers, he's not getting on the field. They're not, I think he had 7, 8 reps on offense the other day.
He has some on
Um,
special teams too.
yeah, yeah. So I think he's gonna have a tough time. And look, I love that pick. I thought he was gonna be a player. Looks like that's awfully close to that one being a blown pick by the previous regime. But sticking with the receivers, though, the slot guys, I feel like Pritchett has really surprised some people. The kid out of South Alabama. I think he's made some plays where even I pointed out in that first game he had that swing to the outside where he only gained 6 or 7 yards, but it looked like it was going to be a loss. At the catch, and you make three guys miss to gain 6 or 7 yards. It's not exactly a highlight reel play, but it shows he's got that lateral that ability to move laterally and make guys miss. Whereas Xavier Gipson, he's had a couple of moments as a returner, but in a couple of years, he hasn't really done much as a receiver. Is this a spot where Pritchett can take that job?
I have him making the my 53-man roster, at least on my projection. So yeah, I doubt he brings flexibility with special teams there. Somebody obviously you can use them there, and then yeah, he has a quite an upside, even though he's a small guy as a wide receiver too. I feel like his speed and just his versatility. Like if you want to get cute. Offensively, Taylor Estran, possibly, use some gadget plays or whatever for a guy like that has the speed that he does, then yeah, it provides a lot of opportunity just for the Jets offense. So yeah, I mean, I like what he brings to the table. So yeah, it depends on. I think Gibson obviously has an injury too as well, so we'll see how that shakes out as well. He ended up getting hurt on Saturday, had a shoulder injury, and actually had that injury previously in camp too as well. So I don't know the severity of it, but again that could also affect on how the Jets do things at the wide receiver position. So there's a lot of questions up in the air still, depending on the health of the status of these guys.
Yeah, and last spot on offense, of course, tight end, where there's a battle. Of course, Mason Taylor is expected to get that number one job. Jeremy Ruckert's been getting the early reps with the ones in camp and in games, but he's another one who hasn't done anything. I think if you look at that, that first play against the Giants, looks like he was the primary. Justin Fields was staring him down, but two Giants dropped back and covered him and took him away, so he dumped it off to Mason Taylor. But we've really seen nothing from him. I think that because of the lack of proven depth there, I think he sticks, but I think he could be a guy they look to replace rather quickly. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, I think they're going to stick with him at least for the year. I mean, look, I don't know. You look at the free agent, but like, I don't think it's a lot there as far as like upgrades there, free agency wise. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
sorry,
you
I,
stick
I
with.
meant I meant if someone shakes loose, but sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you. But yeah, I mean, for me, like, yeah, I just think you stick with him for a year. Obviously, he has rapport with Justin Fields there too. Just play out the string, see how it works out, and obviously, again, like those two have ties dating back to college, and I mean, they like what he's bringing. They think he's doing a really good job just in the offense in general. Obviously, he's had some drops in camp, and that's been documented there. But overall, I think the coaching staff really likes what he brings to the table, especially when they going into two tight end sets.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm kind of hoping. I mean, I don't really know a lot of Jets fans, and everyone knows the story. I don't know people that aren't rooting for him, but you do sometimes have guys that are doing enough at sort of out of the public eye where the team can say, all right, we're comfortable with this guy, even if he's not doing a lot in the games, which is what the fans are seeing. You do every once in a while, there's a guy that does little to nothing. A couple years ago, you look at Tony Adams, sat out all of training camp really with an injury, and he makes the roster, because the team liked him enough. So we'll see what happens there. And look, I don't think there's a Jets fan alive, like I said, that doesn't want to see Ruckert succeed. But just two spots on the defensive side, I'd like you to cover, and then we'll cut you loose. And I appreciate you again for joining us. Um, the DT spot, which is for me personally my biggest concern on the roster. I feel that outside of Quinn and Williams, you don't have any proven talent there. You've got some veterans who've played a handful of games, but not really, more journeyman guys you plug in for a year maybe. But of course, Tufeli had that phenomenal opener. You've got Byron Coward, who hasn't played much, but a lot of people feel like he might be the starter. I'm not sure Derek Nottie makes the roster. I know when they added him, people got on me because I said they should have drafted somebody, and people were saying, "Oh, they got Nottie. He's got a starting experience." I didn't see anything on film that made me think he was going to be a starter, and I haven't seen anything since then that makes me feel any better. What are you thinking about this DT spot? After Tufeli, to line up with guys like Quinn and Williams, and Taylor obviously is safe, but beyond those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be one of those. I don't think it's going to be one set guy. That's why I think it's going to be guys that kind of rotate. And I think Taylor, you know, I think Coward is another guy that I think is figures in there. He's had a pretty good camp too as well. So those will probably be the guys that I think also in addition would probably be in a rotational spot with Quentin Williams there too as well. So yeah, I think they're going to use a variety of different defensive linemen just in certain packages. And yeah, I don't see one particular guy there. I think they're just gonna because nobody's really particularly stood out. So in that case, just see who can make the most plays, especially when the regular season comes about. There, it's one of those things that's gonna I think continue as we go into the regular season in the Pittsburgh game on week 1.
All right, and second to last, because someone asked about the kicker, so I want to get your thoughts on that. But I think defensively, everyone's favorite whipping boy this offseason, the guy everyone thought was a sure thing to be let go, Michael Clemens is still around. Michael Clemens is still repping early on. You've got Eric Watts, to me, who is a pretty similar player. Both have solid athletic profiles. Looking at their RAS, they're both similar size guys. Clemens, of course, makes news for a lot of the wrong reasons. Some of the extracurricular stuff, and of course, at his first fight, 5 minutes into a game this year. Which, to be fair, I think he that was more reaction. I think he did take a shot. But either way, Clemens, Watts, who do you think wins this edge job? Who's going to mix in with the likes of Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson? Who's going to be the edge rotating out, or do both of those guys have a chance to make it?
I think they both do have a chance to make it, but they like Clemens. I know that's hard for some people to believe, but
Yeah.
they used them, especially when like obviously Jermaine hasn't been there. So He's been really the primary guy that's been getting a lot of reps there with the ones there. Although I'm not technically supposed to be saying that, but y'all see, y'all see it on the preseason games and everything like that now. So, but yeah, I think they really get Cleveland is going to stick unless something crazy were to happen because they really do like him. And well, yeah, Eric Watts also brings a lot of potential too as well. So it
Mhm.
wouldn't surprise me. And he's young. Like they
Yep.
like again with the youth movement and everything like that, just see what he can do there. So I think it's a world where both of those guys could potentially make the roster. If not, then I don't think Watts would go very far. I think he'd be a practice squad guy.
Yeah, I think I think they do both have a shot to stick. Um, Last one, like I said, someone threw in the chat. What are your thoughts at the kicker battle? I think they go with the safe route and stick with Folk. What are you thinking they
Yes.
do there?
You need a veteran kicker because this team may struggle to score points. Like, I mean, that's the reality of the situation. I think everybody knows it. I mean, you saw the passing game or lack thereof on, Saturday night. Again, I'm not trying to, push the panic button too
Right,
early because again, it's
right.
preseason and everything
Yep.
like that, and you're not game planning and scheming and all that stuff too. So you also have to keep that in mind as well. But it just did not look good on the surface. And also, in addition, like Justin Fields and the offense all has had a lot of more bad days in camp than I think good. And I think the thing that's a little bit concerning is, and I was talking to some of the other writers as we were just going to the locker room the other night, it doesn't seem like he's getting better. It just seems like it's not progressing the way you want it to, especially with you got less than 3 weeks away from the regular season. So that's my concern in terms of the kicker. I know it's a long-winded answer, but you need a veteran kicker like Nick Folk to make sure you can get 3 points. Because again, this team is going to struggle, and they cannot afford like last year to leave points off the board. Because I think that really killed them in a lot of games last year. They could at least been an 8-win team. I'm not Still probably would have made a coaching change and all that stuff too, but 8 wins looks a lot different than 5.
It sure does. I think I don't give a lot of fantasy football advice, but I took Nick Folk in both the drafts I've done so far because I think he's going to be scoring a lot of points for this team. Antwan Staley, New York Daily News. Thanks for joining us with your thoughts on some of these camp battles that have been ongoing. One game left. We'll see who plays, who doesn't. Thanks so much for your time, Antwan.
I thank you, sir.
All right, have a good one.
You
That's
too.
Antwan Staley, the New York Daily News, again, sharing some of his opinions on the ongoing camp battles. Just wanted to cover those real quick today. But the Nick Folk thing, yeah, I really feel like this team they're not going to want to leave points on the board. Like they've got to get every single point they can, and I think that's why Folk has an opportunity to put up a lot of points this year because I think as we've said, I've said it before. I think this team, regardless of how you may feel about Justin Fields, I think that with his legs, with the backs, they are going to move the football. Then it becomes how effective are they going to be in the red zone? Are they, where things happen quicker because there's less air, less room to work with. And when you have a quarterback in Fields who maybe is holding onto the ball a little bit too long, you might see a lot of trips to the red zone without a lot of touchdowns. So maybe that's where you lean heavily on Nick Folk, and you got enough practice squad spots. If you like Mevis, maybe you let him hang around. Teams do sometimes keep a kicker out there for those purposes, and I don't think anybody would have an issue with that. Again, you're talking about a single practice squad spot for a guy who might be your kicker, for the in the distant future after the season once Folk is done. But I thought for those of you who watched, I don't know who folks had an opportunity to take a look at the all 22. I haven't gotten through the whole thing yet, but it was evident pretty quickly to me. Joe Tippmann, and that's why I started with Antwan with that. That's probably the most important position that is still appears to be up for grabs. I think Tippmann, I think his performance the other night should have settled that discussion internally with the Jets, and that's why I think practice this week is going to be interesting. If we're still seeing Josh Myers running with the ones, that's going to be a little bit of a concern. Didn't get to the QB3 thing with Antwan. Didn't want to go quite that far down the depth chart. Personally, I've said it before. I'm hoping, given Tyrod Taylor's injury history, it's just a matter of I would think you keep a third quarterback, and if I'm keeping a third quarterback, I'm keeping the guy who's got the history of protecting the ball, and that would be Brady Cook. Look, Martinez and Cook can both run. However, they're both inexperienced, and if you look at them historically, and I say it all the time, Martinez did clean things up a little bit in the UFL, but if you look at their two college careers side by side, and even the other day, Martinez threw the pick as I joked. He threw that pick about 5 seconds after I tweeted out, "Hey, this is some of the best football we've ever seen Martinez play." And he throws a pick 1 or 2 passes later, but he just turns the ball over a little bit more than you would like. I think the Corley thing, if he doesn't go off, as I said to Antwan, I think that's the only way Malachi Corley makes this roster, unless if they do short-term IR Alan Lazard and they do short-term IR Xavier Gipson. Now, as Antwan said, we don't know the severity of Gibson's injury. We just know he got dinged up and came out. He might be absolutely fine, but if he needs a few weeks to recover and he lands on IR, then Corley has a shot. But I think Corley's got to make some plays this week, and then he's got to, if he gets an opportunity during the season, those first couple weeks of the season, if he's even active, which I think he will. If you're going to hang on to him that long, or sorry, if you're going to hang on to him because with other guys on IR, then maybe you give him some reps and see how he does. And as far as the DT spot goes, I meant to throw out Fidarian Mathis's name. I think he's a guy who has a chance to stick. He's one of the better. Well, listen, it's not saying a whole lot, and it's more his college days. Like I said, I'm only a little bit into the all 22. I haven't seen much of Mathis yet, but I think he's a guy that if you look at the way he played at Alabama against the run just a few years ago, if you can get him playing close to that level as a pro, then he's got a chance to hang around. The two UDFAs for Torma Mobile, Peyton Page, I thought they had a shot. Page, as we've heard his name more, he's popped a little bit more on film. I'm not as confident that one of them will make it. I thought they had a really good shot, but no one sort of emerged. I mean, I guess I should say I do like their chances because, again, of the whole group, there are no standouts. And so if you're going to keep guys who are question marks, like multiple guys who are question marks, let one of them be the best young rookie on the roster, the best young tackle who you've got the most time to work with and develop, especially again in a year where you're probably not winning anything. And then, of course, Clemens, Watts, McGregor, he's a guy you got to throw in there too. I thought he had some moments last year, and I really kind of felt for McGregor. I thought his last couple games, because he started or he played regularly the first 4 or 5 games, I believe. And I felt like he was starting to have a couple of moments where he was like a hair away, like, getting the pressure, swiping at the quarterback. And you felt like he's going to get one. Like he's getting close enough to where this guy's going to start making plays. And then they pivoted. And I think that's when Watts started getting some reps. So he didn't produce, but I felt like he was improving. We'll see if he hangs around. But this edge group is not great, guys. People don't want to hear it. And like I said, it's crazy to be here once again in terms of edge rushers. For over a decade, they didn't have anybody to rush the passer. Now, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you had Huff, you had JFM, you had a nice lineup of guys, especially the year you drafted JFM because you added him to the mix. And for about 2 days, maybe a day, they had, we thought they'd done a nice job by getting Hassan Reddick, and you still had JFM. They trade JFM that day. Reddick holds out, and that sort of ends up beginning to be the beginning of the end of what was a previously fairly deep group of edge rushers. Now you're one deep and one question mark. You got Will McDonald and you got JJ, who's a big question mark. The Michael Clemens thing, the thing that's funny about Michael Clemens, I'm going to say making this roster because it certainly looks like he's going to. I think the is the how much trash Jets fans talked about him. And I get it. He's frustrating. I've said all along I think he could be a useful piece, but I wouldn't use him in the way the Jets have used him. When you see him line up out wide, he often gets fooled by, play action, misdirection. I've always thought bring him down inside, even maybe move him to DT and just let him try to stuff the run. Because I think given his wingspan and his power, that's something he could be a factor against. But Jets fans have spent so much time trashing this guy, saying he stinks, he doesn't belong in the league. And Aaron Glenn, who everybody loves, and everyone's like, thank God Aaron Glenn's here. We got a real coach now, legacy guy. We love him, we love him, we love him. And Aaron Glenn's like, I really like Michael Clemens. Jets fans are, damn it. Just spent 5 months trashing that guy, saying the next coach, next GM, he's going to be the first guy out the door. Michael Clemens still here, and I don't hate it. I know a lot of people do. I brought it up during the offseason, and people were like, it's early. Shut up. There's plenty of time to cut him. He's not making the team. What is it? August 18th? I think he's making the team, folks. And like I said, I don't hate it. I think in the right packages, I think Michael Clemens can be a useful player. The penalties with Michael Clemens are way overblown. And I think it's because some of them are so over the top and like, what the heck is he thinking there? That Michael Clemens gets a penalty and it feels like 10. But in all reality, if you look at the actual numbers, I think he had 3 penalties last year. I think it was 2 or 3. Well, accepted penalties, I believe. But I when I've mentioned him many times in the offseason, people, oh my God, he's a penalty making machine. Like, well, that's I don't know what the hell you consider a penalty making machine, but 2 or 3 penalties to me is not exactly like you're counting on this guy's going to get one every week. That's simply not reality. But sometimes those feelings, people getting their feelings. Speaking of people getting their feelings, Abdul Carter. Let's touch on that real quick. And listen, I'm a huge Abdul Carter fan. I've watched him all, every season at Penn State over the past few years. Just because the first time I watched him, he just pops. He was a linebacker. He wasn't on the edge yet, and I watched him. I saw 2 or 3 of his games, and I was like, this guy's a first round pick. And I think I talked about it on the show because um, he came up on Rick Spielman's podcast once when Spielman wasn't. They were actually talking about a tackle he was facing because this was the year before he got drafted. And Rick Spielman, they're going back and forth about a tackle. And Spielman's like, oh, I don't know how good that guy is. Number 11 for Penn State was embarrassing him the other day. And I'm driving and I'm thinking, yeah, dude, that guy's going to embarrass a lot of people. And the producer of their show at the time was a Penn State fan, and he jumped on the mic. He's like, Rick, that's a guy. That guy's a first round pick next year. Like, don't let the fact that he's beating up a tackle make you think the tackle isn't good. So, big fan of Abdul Carter, his game. He's going to be, in my mind, he's going to be an all-pro. He's going to be a multi-time Pro Bowler. But he took to Twitter because, look, he got blown up. He had a play. He had a rep where Stone Smart blew him up, put his shoulder in his chest, took Abdul Carter off his feet, and then I believe it was Okora for, pounded on him as soon as he tried to get up and buried him again. So it was a bad rep for him, but it's a bad rep. These things are going to happen. I get Carter was probably embarrassed, but he goes on Twitter and this is the only highlight the Jets are going to have, and we beat that ass 31-12. Dude, just ignore it. You're like 20 years old. You got all the money in the world in the bank. Enjoy your life. Don't it's I think what I said, it's strange because these guys are like alpha badasses. Like these are like some of the toughest dudes you'll ever meet. You see what they do on the football field. They're like our modern day gladiators. And this isn't just Carter. Other guys do this, right? You have these guys who are modern day gladiators, but on Twitter, they're like so sensitive. I'm like, this dude makes people's faces explode for a living by running full speed into them. And then he's getting sensitive because someone said, oh, look, he got beat badly on this rep. Dude, go make your all pro teams and all your money and have a great career. And don't worry about what we're saying about a play on Twitter. Okay, real quick, let's hop in the chat, see what we've gotten here. Just a few comments we'll address, and then we'll roll out of here. I'll start from the most recent one. Rich says, Glenn, I'm suspect on Fields. How we doing, Rich? Missed picking up a blitz. And listen, Fields, up to this point, he is what he is, guys. He's a guy with a ton of potential who is yet to fulfill that potential. There are questions with his ability, how quickly does he read a defense? How quickly does he get the ball out? And that's why, as I just said with Antwan, and I've said several times, this team is going to move the football because they have too much talent up front and in the backfield, especially when you consider Justin Fields and his ability to run. They are going to run and move the football a lot. How well Justin Fields does in the red zone is going to be a big part of this. That's why, as I said, take Nick Folk in your fantasy leagues. Let's see. Brian says MetLife Stadium is 2,928 miles. That sign there from where you're sitting right now. Yeah, give or take a few miles. That was a gift from the wife a few years ago. because you can find everything on the internet. She searched like distance from where we were in England to MetLife Stadium, and then she had that sign made. So pays to have a great wife. Marry a great woman, fellas. Let's see. Tony says 2021 QB draft is terrible, including Fields. It's been pretty bad. It has been bad. There's no denying that. Zach Wilson looked all right the other day. I watched a couple of drives. And I joked on Twitter, said if the Jets need a QB3, Zach Wilson might be available by Monday. It's going to be interesting to see what Miami does. Miami you can't go off of feelings, but man, you just feel like they're about to have a really bad year. And that's not just hoping. I'm always hoping they have a bad year. But it just feels, I don't know. McDaniel's it feels like he's got one foot out the door. And look now they'll go 17-0. And, for me saying that, I'm not making any bold predictions here. I just watch them and, the little bit I've seen them, the press conferences, the Tyreek drama. It just feels like it's going to be bad. So it's probably going to be great. Let's be honest. Just like my comment about how great Adrian Martinez looked and he throws a pick 10 seconds later. Year says Okorafor has been horrible. He's not been great. Yeah, I would agree, but he's still by far the most experienced, most accomplished guy they have on the roster in terms of letting somebody be a backup tackle, swing tackle type. Tony also says trade fumbling Brees. Did Brees fumble? I don't remember him fumbling for a 350-pound fatty DT. That would be if you don't trade for a fat guy, just trade for a fat guy. I would like it to be like a 330 plus good DT, and I don't know how many teams are giving those guys up before week 1. Those guys have some value. So although there's some teams, going to be interesting to see what happens with Brees because he's a good player. They have too many guys to pay. I don't think they're going to be able to pay him. And so I think he'll be gone. So it becomes a matter of, do we trade him in season with the deadline approaching, or do we hold on to him for the year and just take the comp pick? I think that might be the way to go. And let's see. Brian says Brandon Smith over Alan Lazard. That could, I think Lazard, I still think they move him at some point. He's a guy I think they trade before the deadline, especially with Quentin Skinner emerging. And I think Lazard, believe it or not, I think he'll play a lot of slot. I think they'll go with a lot of big slot, and he's done that before. He's done it in Green Bay. He has done it a little bit here. I think that having a guy of that size in the slot, listen, this is why the Justin Fields accuracy issues are another one of the reasons why I wanted Tetairoa McMillan. Like, give me the dude who is 6'6" with the insane, off the charts, possibly biggest wingspan in the NFL. Give me that dude because Justin Fields is my quarterback. That's how I felt. Jets obviously felt differently. And now, but I think that's why Lazard, I think that's Skinner. Again, Skinner, 6'5", big wingspan. These are the guys you need on the field with Justin Fields at quarterback. As I said, when I went back and watched all of his games from last year, a lot of throws, especially down the field, just the accuracy wasn't there. And even as I said, and go back and watch the games yourself. Watch Justin Fields. A lot of the deep balls he threw, they weren't really on point. It took a little bit of extra effort, a lot of adjustment by the receivers where you're thinking, yeah, having a dude 6'5", having a Quentin Skinner there would be more beneficial than having a guy who's 5'11", 6'1", somewhere in that range. So, but yeah, I think Smith makes it. Lazard, I think Lazard starts off on IR. And we'll see what happens from there. In case you missed it, Chris Boyd, the special teamer, the corner / special teams guy, landed on season-ending IR today. He's done. I didn't have him on my final 53. Well, I did a 53 the other day. I didn't have him on there. There's always something with a damn 53. Too many names. I left Isaiah Oliver off by accident. Having said a million times that Dean Clark won't make the roster because of Isaiah Oliver, and then I do a roster and I left because I had him with the corners and then I took him off to put him with the safeties and forgot to put him with the safeties. Anyway, the world sits and waits for my 53s, right? I know, not a big deal, but they're fun to do. They're fun to look at, and they're fun to kick around and see where people agree and disagree. You can find that on the front page of JetNation.com, by the way. JetNation.com, most active Jets message board on the web. Give me a follow at JNRadio_Glenn if you enjoy draft content and draft prospects. Also, give me a follow at Jets Picks, both on Twitter. At Jets Picks is primarily just firing off highlights of college players. And then the at JN Radio, JN Radio underscore Glenn is Jets News, Jets Talk, this show when we're on, when we're not, and interacting with you guys, engaging with the fans. So thanks for checking us out. Thanks again to Antwan Staley of the Daily News for joining us. We will be back again probably a few times this week. And season's almost here, folks. We have football in 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. The real thing starts. Might be coming out, might not, might come out later in the year. We shall see. Have a good one, Jets fans.